This is Henry Washington, and you're listening to the Average Joe Finances Podcast.
If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you smash the like and subscribe buttons. If you're listening to our podcast, go leave us a 5-star review. All of our links can be found in the video description or show notes below. Hey, welcome back to the Average Joe Finances Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Cavagioni, and today's guest is somebody who I've been trying to get on the show for a long time, and I've been on his show, and I'm super excited to introduce the military to millionaire, David Pere. So Dave, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Make it sound like I've been dodging you. I don't think that's necessarily the case.
No, it's almost like we've been playing like phone tag for this stuff. Yeah. It's every time there was an opportunity, things didn't work out. I've had you scheduled in the past and then something came up that didn't work out. And it's almost like I've been dodging you. Really?
I don't know. We've got that whole time zone thing.
Yeah, you know.
It's like 5:30 on Friday night for me right now, and it's probably like noon.
Yep, 12:30. Yeah. Right on, man. Okay, so hey, Dave, you are a special guest for me, so I'm excited to have you on. However, I don't want to change how I do things, so we're going to kick this off the same way we do every podcast episode. And for my listeners here that don't know you, which I think a majority of them will know you, but for those that don't, Dave, could you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your story, and tell us who is David Pere.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Who is David Pere? Some old broken Marine Corps vet who has a great beard and likes to play with his dogs and ride his motorcycle. I joined the Marine Corps in 08, right? I grew up in Arkansas. I wanted to see the world. Didn't have money to go to school. Didn't really know how I'd get out and see the world. And I met a Marine Corps recruiter. I actually talked to all the recruiters, but the Marine Corps stuck out to me personality-wise. And they offered me the great chance to get paid to see the world. And I took it. I loved it. I did it for 13 years. About 7 years into that journey, I had found I was on recruiting duty and I'd made all the normal financial decisions that service members make. I had tattoos and Harleys and guns and cars and trucks and booze, and I'd taken a bunch of women out on dates, and I had no money. And I was on recruiting duty and I was like, damn, if I ever want to stop working all these hours, I should probably not have to go take a W-2. Like, I need some kind of income. And a buddy was trying to get me into Amway, handed me the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We all super familiar with Robert. And I actually told him I don't read. And he handed it to me on like a CD-ROM. Oh, fine. He got me. Okay, I'll read it. And, I did. And that totally changed the trajectory of my life. I went and read like the whole Purple Library and then stumbled into Bigger Pockets. And I'd say probably within the next 4 months, I don't actually know exactly when I finished that CD-ROM, but probably within the next 4 or 5 months, I'd bought a duplex. Lived in one half, rented the other half. It was just like perfect timing with a lease coming due and all this other stuff. And then once I saw, oh, wow, this real estate thing works, I just went all in on it. And 5.5 years later, I was financially free, quote unquote, millionaire. And then about 6 months after that, I left the military and I've been just doing my own thing. I say my own thing. Everyone thinks financial freedom is like never going to work again. Nah, it's just working on things I want to and not having to work on anything else.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. And I think that's a great way to look at it. It gives you the freedom to make that choice, right? It gives you the freedom to be able to do the things that you want to do by your own volition. And I think you're selling yourself short a little bit, because not only did you get yourself to the point where you were able to get out of the military because of what you've done in real estate, but you also help a bunch of other people do that as well. For those that are watching this on YouTube, you can see that David and I are both wearing the same shirts. That is because myself, and I am a member of his mastermind. It's a real estate mastermind, and we do more than just real estate, but it's just been a great collaborative group of veterans that are interested in furthering themselves as entrepreneurs, right? I'm very pleased to be a member of that. I'm actually one of the squad leaders, Squad 6, we're the best squad. But it's been great. It's been a great experience for me. I've been able to meet some amazing people, and that is something that you started, man. So I want to say thank you for what you've done there. because you created a community for like-minded people like me, veterans that need their tribe, right? We do, especially when this is one of the things I realized when I retired, David, was that I thought transition was going to be easy. And I always heard everybody tell me, oh, no, man, it's tough, man. It's tough when you go out to the civilian world. I was like, oh, no, it can't be that bad. It can be tough, man. It can be tough. It can be lonely, right? So having that support network, having that tribe, I think for me has just helped me even with my mental health, if that makes sense. So I want to say thank you for that. And if you could, man, can you talk about that a little bit? Talk about what the War Room's all about and what we do?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. It's more a community than anything. So I've got probably 300,000 followers on all platforms and free content. And then this was the space where I wanted to, I think it originally just started where I'd been in a few different masterminds and I'd had really good experiences. And I was like, there's always that piece where you're trying to find the people you get along with the most in those masterminds. And in my head, I was like, dude, vets always get along. Like we pick each other out of crowds. Like it doesn't matter if I'm, if you're Air Force or Coast Guard, sure, I feel like obligated to talk a little smack, but then you're going to call me dumb and we'll get along fine. It's the normal camaraderie, but we all have that commonality and the ability to get along. And I even noticed at like Bigger Pockets events, there'd be service members all at one table, like just happenstance. And so it formed as a place for people who had a little skin in the game and really wanted to help each other succeed with that commonality to come together as a mastermind. And I had no idea what it was going to become, and it's been awesome so far. So we do 2 calls a week. We do an Ask Me Anything office hours call on Thursdays. We do a Saturday call where we bring in guest speakers. We've had some pretty heavy hitters on the floor over the years, and we've got 392 members right now. Maybe 93. I didn't check to see if anyone closed in the last half day. And that's it, dude. We've got all the educational resources. We've got master classes on capital raising and house hacking and creative financing, your VA loan and all of that. But it's less about the educational resources and more about the accountability squads, like you mentioned, that you run. Everybody gets put in one of those, or the ability to just post a question in a group of people who think similarly to you and aren't trying to sell you stuff and will give you really valid advice. We've even got CFPs in there. Like it's so we got 9-figure business owner, 8-figure business owners. Like we've got it's just a really cool community and people do deals together, and it's just really cool to watch.
Yeah, man. I got to say, it's just, again, it's been a great thing for me to be a part of that. I think so. I've known you for a while, like online, but I met you for the first time in person. I think it was in 2021 at the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, at the first one that they did that Dustin was running. And I remember as soon as I ran into you, I was like, oh, that's Dave. I know that guy. And then right away picked you out of the crowd of all the other speakers, and we connected right away. And that's my first memory of you. And then there's been many others since, especially whenever you come out here to Hawaii. We get to hang out, which is pretty neat. But
yeah, Mike stole all my money in a game.
No, I did not steal all your money. It was
Mike brought me to
probably
somebody's
one
house and
hand
his
I went for you. The
friends
rest
took
was
all
the
my
rest of the
money.
people at the table.
I was gonna say Mike brought me to a house where his friends took all my money. No, it was
Anyway,
good. I think it was getting late, and I was ready to throw money at anyone, so I had an excuse to go to bed anyway.
It was a good time. It's a good time.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
But yeah, so man,
we should probably preface that this is a really affordable buy-in, not some crazy.
Yeah, nothing crazy.
Mike and I are not
dropping
throwing
thousands.
It's not like
of
Mike
dollars.
took 10 grand out of my pocket. Like now we're talking like $20.
But yeah, so with that, so besides the mastermind, like there was something that got you to this point, right? And like you said, you had mentioned earlier that you got into real estate and it got you to the point where you reached financial freedom and said, you know what, I don't need to stay in the military anymore. And it's when you see somebody get to a certain amount of time in the military and then they don't make it to 20 and they just get out, it made me scratch my head. I was like, dude, you could have did a couple more years and got this pension, but you were like, hey, I built something, it works, and I don't want the headache anymore. You said, my time is my time, and you took your time back. So I got to ask you, like, what was the kind of the turning point for you where you said, I think I'm going to get out now because I'm having a lot more fun doing this other stuff?
No joke, dude. 12 days ago would have been 16 years. So it's funny because it wasn't, everyone thinks it's something about money or time, or It was less that I had achieved a level of success and more that the roles I started playing in the military weren't appealing anymore. So the more I got promoted and the further we got away from combat, the less I was running convoys in the desert with machine guns and fording rivers and blowing stuff up and getting blown up and all the fun stuff. And the more it was not even running a motor pool anymore. It was like, hey, we need you in this office. Hey, we're going to put you in. My last command was the 3-star command. It was MEF, Camp Pendleton's 3-star command over the entire West Coast. I was the building next door to the CG. I was on the second floor in a skiff. For anyone who doesn't know, that's a windowless hole with no cell phones, no Gmail, no YouTube, no
Very familiar
fun.
with skiff life.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's and you're the boot. It's like you go from being the staff sergeant who finally got put in front of in charge of a motor pool to the staff sergeant who's taking the trash out. And it was just, I'd gotten promoted quick in my career and I loved what I was doing. I was running platoons and security teams and Marines and I did all kinds of fun stuff. And then it was like, oh, it's time to be the guy in the office. And then I was good even there. Like I was good at what I was doing. So it was like my partner went to Dubai 2 years in a row when I should have gone 1 year because they wanted to keep me next to the CG. And I'm like, dude, it's been 2 years. I haven't left this office. Like they waived my rifle range so that I didn't have to leave for a week to go shoot. It was so frustrating. And so it was less, there was definitely a point where I'm getting yelled at by a lieutenant colonel about colors on a PowerPoint. And it clicked. I'm making more money than this guy at home than I am at than he is at work. What am I doing this for? But it boiled down to just that last command. It was not fulfilling anymore. Things were winding down. We couldn't do anything fun anymore. And I was like, I joined the Marine Corps for travel and adventure. If I'm not getting that anymore, like I haven't left the country in 10 years, I'm going to just do it on my own. And now I've gone to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 countries in Latin America in the last 2 years, and
Nice.
2 of those more than once. So I'm traveling. I went to 36 states last year. And so that was like what it really boiled down to. But yeah, it was still hard for me too. Everyone thinks you transition out and, oh, it must be nice. You had all this stuff going for you. Dude, it's not about whether or not you have money or a plan. I'd say it's not even about whether or not you have to work with civilians. I think it's just missing the people and the community that you're in, because you lose that sense of identity being a Marine. You lose that sense of purpose that you had while serving. And then you're like looking around, dude, I got to watch what I say because people will get butthurt. This is not it.
So I got to say, man, you said something that triggered me a little bit. And that was the people making comments about, about the people making comments about, oh man, you got all this stuff going for you. What's the problem? And man, that drives me nuts, because people say that to me too. They're like, oh man, look at your success. Look at everything you've been doing. Like it was something that was handed to me. Bro, I had to work so hard for this. You had to work so hard for everything that you have today. And people don't look at the sweat equity that you had to put into that. They just see the end product, right? And that's why I have a love-hate relationship with social media. Social media is great because you could promote your business, you could promote yourself, all that raw stuff. But the other part of social media that I hate is that people don't really see the work and everything else behind the scenes that you're doing to get there. Nobody sees the times that you were in those properties that you were buying and fixing things, and you got you freaking jammed your finger because you accidentally whacked it with a hammer or something. Stupid crap like that. People don't really, or people just take for granted, right? They only see the success. They don't see the work that got you there. So that kind of frustrates me a little bit. And I don't know, man, like, what are your thoughts on some of that? Because I know you've probably had to deal with that often, especially now. Like, people come to you. I'm sure you probably hear that with people like signing up for the Mastermind. They're like, oh, why do I got to do this and that? And I don't know. What's your take?
Yeah, the reality is everybody wants the thing, but nobody's willing to do the work. And even with the Mastermind, we've had a couple people lately who they asked for a refund a few weeks in because they realized, like, oh, wait, you're not going to just hold my hand and do everything for me?
Yeah.
Like, no, if you wanted me to do that, I would have charged you 3 times, 4 times as much. Maybe even that. Actually, I think if I charged someone 4 times as much, like if they came to me, I might, but I wouldn't. That's still not even tempting. Like, I make enough money. I don't need if I'm going to take somebody's money, it's got to be doing something I love, and holding somebody's hand and analyzing their own properties. That's what people fail to realize. Let's say you gave me $20,000 to help you buy your first house. That's a good amount of money, but that's a lot of headache if you're the type of person, because if you're the type of person who needs that handhold so much that you're willing to put an entire down payment into paying someone to hold your hand, you're probably not an easy person to work with. And
Exactly.
A, I'm not a buyer's agent because I hate that crap. B, like I could make $20,000 buying myself a house and not have to worry about teaching or whatever's going on in the self-doubt and the whatever. So it's not to say that I'm not going to do it, but people, it's an interesting conundrum because people give you a little bit of money and then, or they don't want to, but they want all your time. It's almost like Software Mosey say something about this today, I think, where if you tell someone you've got open space on your calendar, they will default to assuming that means you have time to give them. No, I have open space on my calendar because I got all my stuff done. Now I'm going to focus on what I want to focus on.
Yeah.
And that's the vibe I get. There are people out there, unfortunately, who they want the handout. They want you to do it for them, but they're not willing to pay for it. And so I would just say, you got to find a way to get around the people that you want to get around. And for me, I think generally that answer is money. It's funny because I get that I might not be in the same financial spot as some of these people, but when I hear someone complain that they had to spend a couple $1,000s on a coach or a mastermind and they immediately think they're getting scammed. Now, don't get me wrong, there are crappy gurus out there, unfortunately. But I'm like, dude, I found $56,000 in my P&L last month when I was doing fact check, and I was like, why is all this stuff marked as other business expenses? Like, what the hell did we mess up where I've got $56,000 of other? And then I go in, and other is the category I put my 2 coaches under. I'm like, oh, all right. So it's July, and I've spent $56,000 on coaching for myself, 2 guys. And it's probably a little bit more if you count. I guess there was GoBundance in there for a little bit. Like, they're one of those guys, I pay $2,500 for a single call every month. And so when somebody's like, this was a scam, I'm like, you paid for an entire year? I don't know. It's hard for me to get past that mentality of the crabs in a bucket. I don't know. You're right. It wasn't easy. And shoot, I have 7 people who rely on me for pay now. 6. I had to fire one today this week. That's not fun either.
That's a whole different podcast episode.
Yeah, that's not fun either.
But yeah, no, I appreciate that, man. I respect that because, again, it goes back to about putting in the work, right? A lot of people want to sit here and say, well, I want to be like Dave. I want to go do what he's doing, but they don't want to put in that same work or effort to do it. Or they don't want to hire the coach. I mean, you just disclosed with everybody, that you pay, it's July or no, it's August. And you've already paid $56,000 to coaches this year. Like, I pay a couple $1,000s to coaches every year and not nearly that much. And I'm not complaining about that. You get what you pay for, right? And what I'm getting from them is helping me do what I got to do. I pay for a mastermind. I'm in your mastermind. I pay for that, right? To me, it's worth it because the value that I get out of it, what I get to extract, the accountability group. These guys tell me all the time to get my fat ass up and start working out more because that's what I need to do, right? And that's one of the things that I ask them to hold me accountable for. And we have our little WhatsApp chat where we give each other updates on what we're doing. That's super important, if you ask me. And I feel there's this sense of entitlement that a lot of people have nowadays, and it really just bothers the hell out of me. What are you entitled to, right? Go out there and freaking earn it. Like, even my kids, like I tell my kids, like, don't think I'm just going to hand you a freaking dynasty, right? That you need to earn every freaking penny. You need to go out there and work. You need to do these things. Yes, you are growing up better than I did, 100%, because I wanted to give that to you, right? You need to understand how life and the world works. I can't just sit here and hold your hand through every experience, right? So that's why I definitely respect what you're saying there about the hand holding, because you can't sit there and say, oh yeah, you pay me enough money, I'll just walk you through the process. They're not going to get anything out of that. You're not going to retain anything, right?
Yeah.
So they might get this one deal locked up, and when it's time for the next deal, what are they going to do? You're going to go back and say, hey, can you help me with another one? No, I don't have the time for that, right? Anyway, I don't want to go off on a.
And then they'll realize how
tangent
little work it actually was, and they'll feel like they got ripped off for 20 grand.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, yeah, but you didn't pay me the 20 grand for the work. You paid me the 20 grand for you getting out of your own head.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
By the way,
All right,
I
man.
should probably clarify it. I don't charge 20 grand for this service. I don't want your money. I don't want to help you do that. There are better ways to do that.
I don't pay 20 grand to be in his mastermind. Now I'll tell you,
No.
there are other
Nobody
masterminds
does.
out there that charge that much or more. And I know a lot of people that I meet up with at real estate events out here in Hawaii. They tell me some of the prices they pay at some of the places they're in. I'm like, oh man, I was like, any of you guys vets? Let me talk to you about another thing. Anyway, but I see people they pay a butt ton of money. And then a lot of people that are very successful have gotten caught up in those. They show up to the conference and it's, hey, at the end of the speaker talking, it's go to the back. Hey, we'll help you get a credit card to sign up for this and that or whatever. And next thing you know, you went to this conference that you paid $500 for, and you're leaving there paying $30,000 more to be part of a mentorship or a program. And you're just going to be getting regurgitated stuff. Right. And then there's people that actually take that and they say, okay, I learned my lesson from that. That was an investment in myself because I put the money into it. I'm going to put it to use. And they go on and they be successful. Then there's other people that don't take action on anything. And they're like, oh man, I can't believe I spent this money on this and that or whatever. And then they get all in their pants and upset about it. But then you see the ones that were successful doing something like that. And they say, hey, look, yeah, when I went to this, I probably spent way too much money on it, but I learned A, B, C, and D, and I took action. So I feel like a lot of times, one of the things I always talk about is when I talk about the 4 pillars to building wealth, or just really the 4 pillars to building anything, it's you have to have the education, you have to have the networking piece, and then coaching and mentorship. But then that 4th pillar, none of that crap matters if you don't take action. None of it matters. All you're doing is freaking hyping yourself up for nothing. So you have to be ready to take action if you go into anything. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
But anyway, all right, man. So let's talk about a couple other things, right? Because I know we don't have all day to speak, but what are some of the things that interest you today? What are some of the things that you're getting into now?
Man, honestly, the biggest piece is like just working on the business, trying to get really good at that. So I'm paid. He used to be an EOS integrator. Now he worked with another company. Now he's building out his own thing. And so we did our first 4-hour session with him 2 days ago, and it was great. We got some homework, and we're going to meet again with him next month, and it's been really good. So I'm building, trying to improve that culture. And then I'm digging into the business side of like marketing and sales and all that. That's just all fun for me. I like marketing and funnels and sales and like the people aspect of like, how do I get this person to do these things?
Yeah.
But then at some point I'd like to get into business acquisition and all that fun stuff, but I'm still buying. I'm just at a place where I don't have to spend a ton of time on real estate because most of the deals that I'm involved in, people bring me at this point. So people just, hey, I got this thing, I need help raising capital, or hey, I got this thing, I need these partners. And I just put people together in exchange for equity right now. It's funny because I've only done 3 transactions this year, 130 unit hotel, a duplex, and a 13 single family house, 1 vacant lot portfolio. Nice. And so I'm like, okay, could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
But it's just, yeah, it's interesting because I like the real estate game, but it gets boring after a little while. So I'm learning more and more about development. I want to get into developing. And then the business side, like I just enjoy the communication, the networking, the people aspect of all of that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Love it. Another way to look at it too is like any deals that are coming to you now, and that's just another drop in the bucket because you're already there, right? You're already where you want to be. So this is just more good stuff. I actually just got my first equity deal for putting stuff together for the first time as well, that was pretty neat. Just being able to connect the right people. And I've heard you talk about that before. I was like, man, I'd love to do something like that one day. And then it just came to me, and it's great because of these connections that I make through my podcast, through going to these meetups and just networking. Like you meet the right people and the deals are going to come, right? You just got to be ready to take action when those deals come. I always stay at the ready. Right now, man, my focus has been like building up liquidity. Because I think I don't have a crystal ball or nothing. I think early 2025 to mid 2025 might get a little crazy with some opportunities. So yeah, I'm just trying to prepare myself for that.
Smart move. Yeah. I think it's going to be weird because let's be real. We all know rates are going to drop in time for the election.
Yep.
And
September 18th when they're going to drop.
Yeah. Oh my God. I've been saying that for 6 months. Everyone's been like, oh, we never saw that coming. Yeah, whatever. that whole thing. And then, but that everybody thinks that's going to fix the market. And I think it's only going to make things get crazy for a little while. And then I'm worried about what happens 6 months to a year after that.
Exactly.
I'm still not in the belief that the real estate is going to be the reason I don't think real estate will be the straw that breaks the camel's back this year or this time around. I have said that for a long time. I've actually been watching the auto industry more than the real estate market when it comes to like how are consumers really feeling, because my problem with the real estate, everybody's got their theories about this, that, and the other, but so many people are locked into their incredible rate from a few years ago that they just, if things get really rough, they just don't move. Problem solved. So they don't sell. So there's no reason to, it's like, oh man, the market's terrible. I'll just stay here for a little while longer. That's not the same as what it was 15 years ago, where it's like, oh man, the market's terrible and I've got a floating rate that I lied about my income to get.
Yeah. No, I'm not getting rid of my 2.25% interest rate. I can tell you that. But I think what we're going to see is the folks that locked in the buy downs that were good for 2 years. Those are starting to come. The interest rates are starting to hit their actual numbers now. You got the folks that bought in 2021. You were offering way over asking price, and now it's like time for them to move and they're underwater. I'm seeing it right now with clients out here in Hawaii, especially, unfortunately, for military folks. PCS season comes and their 3-year tour is up and it's time for them to go. And they bought a house at the peak of the market and it hasn't really moved since. It creates problems. There's a couple things out there. And that's why I think, honestly, I don't think it matters who wins the election. I think next year is going to be very interesting for real estate.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I've been watching, and this is purely speculation, right?
Yeah.
But anyone who knows me knows my goal in the next year is to buy a Porsche. A nice one, not like I could go buy a Porsche, but like a Turbo S or GT3 RS, right? And they have been like ridiculously over. There was a local allocation for a GT3 RS about a year ago, and if I had been willing to pay $100K over MSRP, I could have had it. And somebody was willing to do that. I wasn't. I've been watching these two big auction sites where people go and auction their cars off. And for the longest time, it was like, you'd see a GT3 RS or a Turbo S, like the higher end Porsches, like once every couple of weeks, and they'd go for $450, whatever, like top line pricing. And now it's every week they're popping up. And one of them just didn't meet its reserve, but it was only at $357. It was $100K less than it would have pulled 6 months ago. And the reserve shows that person wasn't willing to sell it for that. But that says, hey, why are they, like, the market's not there. So I'm watching more people list and dump and offload their really nice cars and people paying less for them. I'm like, we'll see what happens. That's, to me, I'm thinking people are starting to get a little leery.
Yeah. I didn't even know that Porsches even got that expensive, man. I thought you were going to talk about a Bugatti or something at that price. Jeez.
No, the car industry's gone wild. If you got the allocation for a 24, I guess technically a 23 GT3 RS, the car's MSRP was, I don't know, 250, call it two something. There was a 2 in front of it. And then let's say you go all out, you put the Wysock package on and you do all the things, you'd be rolling out around 300. But with the MSRP, people were paying $450, and then they come out and you couldn't get one. And then the people who couldn't get one were trying to buy one and you had to wait 6 months for it to come out of the Porsche, be able to sell it. And then once you could finally sell it, man, the auction prices on those things, some of those were selling closer to 5.
Wow.
Yeah. Wild for basically double MSRP.
Yeah, that's crazy, bro. That's crazy.
Those are the weirdos who don't drive their cars either. And I'm like, I can't buy those prices because I'm going to beat the crap out of it and then it won't hold value.
Yeah, that's true.
Hold it forever.
That's true. You'll probably drive the value right out of that thing, man.
Oh yeah, I'll own it forever. That's my plan. I want a
car.
Car
I would hope so. Paying that price for it, people pay less than that for a house.
Yeah, I don't plan to pay those prices. I'm looking still more than I want to, but substantially lower than that. But yeah.
Nice. Maybe look for a 2020 to come out. All right, man. Good deal. All right, Dave, awesome to know about some of the things that you're interested in nowadays and what you're working on. Yeah, there's always going to be highs and lows in any industry, right? So I think it's just a matter of paying attention to that and understanding it before you get into it, right? A lot of people this is not the same market as it was back in 2020 and 2021, where you could just jump into real estate and be successful. I think it's important for everybody to take the context of what the market currently looks like and have a good understanding of that, and then be ready to take action when it's the right time, when you find that right deal. But real estate's not dead. It'll never be dead. But yeah. So I want to go ahead and transition this into the final round. It's where I'm going to ask you the same 4 questions I ask everybody that comes on the show. Gives us a good idea of how you are under a little bit of pressure, but it's really not that bad. But if you're ready to go, well, we'll get that thing moving.
Under pressure. Yeah.
Hey, I just watched that Freddie Mercury movie. It was pretty good.
Oh yeah, he does good. Have you seen, there's a clip that just went viral on TikTok of his, I don't know if it's really his daughter, but they were saying it's his daughter doing the oh in front of a crowd.
Oh, wow.
I can believe
I have to go look that up.
it's off the voice, but I didn't know he had a daughter.
All right on. Okay. All right. Hey, let's go ahead and kick this off. Sidebar. All right. So, hey, David, first question I have for you is, what's the biggest mistake you've ever made when it comes to your finance or business life?
There's a lot of ways to answer that, but I'm going to leave it as trusting too early or trusting without, trying to think of the best way to word this. I would just say, yeah, trusting people without safeguards. And that just wraps up basically all of my deals that went south, or employees that did me wrong, or partners that did me, or whatever, could all have been saved with better contracts and better covering my ass at the beginning from my attorney.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. It's fair enough. All right. This next question, these all kind of tie into each other. And that is, what is something that you've learned that you wish you knew when you first started out?
I tell people this all the time. This is like it's one of your questions. What's the one piece of advice you give? Because if so, I'm about to steal my own answer.
Actually, yes.
Okay, then I'll save that. We're not going to give that answer. So I wish I'd known a lot of stuff. I wish that I had known that it was okay to go bigger early on. Because I, like everyone, dipped my toe in the water, did this, did that. And man, I could have been a lot further away or along.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Okay. All right. And this question's similar to what you were saying, but this next one is, do you have any tips or tricks that you would recommend to someone that is just getting started today?
Yeah, we'll give that answer. Learn to filter the advice that you receive through the lens of, does this person live the life I want, or would I trade places with them? And I would say the add-on to that is, in this specific topic. And I say that because, if I go and ask a guy who's been divorced about my marital issues, my answer will be much different than a guy who's been married for 40 years. And yet that guy who's been married for 40 years might be terrible with money, and the guy who's been divorced might be a billionaire, right? So you've got the best example I ever give of this is, you think of your mom. Your mom loves you. She's got your best interest at heart, at least most moms. If your mom's not that one, then we'll think of the generic mom, and has your best interest at heart, loves you, doesn't want to see you fail. That doesn't mean they're the person. Like, if you were to go get into UFC and want to get into fighting, you're not going to hire your mom to train you. I mean, unless your mom's Ronda Rousey, but you're going to go hire a UFC coach. And if your mom tells you to do it a different way, you're going to ignore her and listen to your UFC coach. And yet, for some reason, you get into real estate or investing, and your mom, or whoever, but your mom in this case, tries to talk you out of it. Uncle Bill had a tenant that screwed him, or one property, or whatever, and your mom doesn't own real estate, but you take their advice because you assume they have my best interest at heart because it's my mom. She loves me, so she's got to be giving me the best advice. Whereas if you were to ask that same question of somebody who owns $100 million worth of real estate, they would actually encourage you and help you get there. And so I just tell people, like, get in the room with people that are doing what you want to do, and don't, not that you ignore people, but filter out the advice from people who haven't achieved what you want to achieve. So, like, when people start giving me advice on my sales team, that I have an agency I work with, and I'm like, when people start giving me advice on sales, my sales guys like cleared $800,000 last month net. You've not been in sales. I'm going to keep listening to them. Thanks.
Yeah.
Not that's by the way, that is like them and their business. That is not me. That's not
Yeah.
my business.
Oh, no. I
But
get it.
I
I get it.
wish.
No, there you go, man. I think I've heard you say something like that before, similar, not only to us in the mastermind, but I've heard you on other podcasts talking about that. And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges a new investor faces, right? Is the constant peanut gallery, right? You have something that you want to do, you focused in, you're honed in on it, but then you got the naysayers over here. You got the person right in front of you trying to tell you, hey, come on, this is the way, this is the path you want to take. And I know it looks rough, like there's sticks and branches and who knows on this path, but you got the naysayers. No, hey, take that other path. That's the straight and narrow, and it'll just take you to where you're going. It might be longer, might take a long time to get to the end of that one, but the other one looks dangerous. Yeah, of course. There's risk in anything that you do involving investing your own money, your time, your efforts, and what you're trying to do. But yeah, I really appreciate that answer, man, because I feel like I don't know how many people I've talked to that were getting into something and then, oh, this family member had a bad experience, or my best friend had a bad experience with that. You can't let other people's bad experiences ruin what you are trying to do. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'll get off that soapbox, but I love that answer, bro. I love it. Okay. So the final question of the final round, and this is just like an opinion-based one, and I will preface this with, besides your own, but do you have a favorite, because we'll get to that, okay? But do you have a favorite business, investing, or real estate related book or podcast or both?
Yes. And my answer to this is always going to vary based on the context, right? Because I've gotten to a place where I've read enough and I'm like, the book is only important if it's the problem you're trying to solve at that point in time. But that in mind, I always lean back to either 4-Hour Work Week, Free to Focus, which is just like a Michael Hyatt book on like your calendar setup, or more recently, I would say 10X is easier than 2X by those guys.
Okay.
And so I'll stick with the 10X is easier than 2X. And it's just a good book on like how to get out of your own way.
Yeah. No, I love that. And a lot of people want to give hate on Grant Cardone and all that stuff, but
Not Grant.
no, I know, but I'm saying he's like big on the whole 10X thing. But the thing is, if you shoot for the moon and you just get out of the atmosphere, you still made it to space. So anyway, no, I love that, bro.
Maybe
I
you
love
filmed
that.
it in a warehouse in the 60s.
Yeah.
Moonwalk. Who knows?
We're not talking conspiracies here.
I don't even buy into that conspiracy stuff. I just find it fun to.
I know it's you got to poke fun at those things, man. Hey, who knows if you could even get out of the atmosphere with this on this flat Earth? But
Yeah, all of Elon's satellites are just chilling in a lake on the outside of the island.
exactly, and the little fake stars in the sky are reflecting off that lake, and it just looks. Anyway, that's it for the final round. You survived. You pat yourself on the back. I told you it's not that bad. But in closing, I do have another question I have to ask you, and this is the most important question I'm going to ask you throughout this entire show, because for those that were listening and they're like, hey, man, I like what Dave's talking about. I want to learn more about him, or, hey, I'm a veteran and I'm interested in joining the war room. Where can people find more information about you? Can you share like your website, social media profiles, all that good stuff?
Yeah, you're going to love this. You can
I
go
already
to
know what you're going to say, and I do love it. I will preface that right there. What he's about to say, I love it.
You can go to thebestpodcastguest.com and you'll get you can download a free copy of my book there. You can find my planner. You can find all my social media. And I don't actually think there's a link to the mastermind there, but that's fine because you can always just ping me or just ask Mike. He'll point you in the right direction. And then maybe we'll give him some money for helping bring you into the fold. Everybody can make money.
It's like an episode of Oprah.
You get a car, you get a car, you get a car. You get to pay taxes on it. Sorry. But yeah, it's thebestpodcastguest.com and it's got all the stuff to connect in all the communities for free.
Awesome. I love it. We'll share that link in the show notes, make it easy for everybody to find you. So those of you that are listening, you know the drill. You can copy and paste it or click away. Just don't do it if you're driving, please. But here's a funny story though on that. So as soon as he told me that, I was like, man, I want to do something similar. I thought that was so clever. And I found a domain name that was available for thebestpodcaster.com. So I went and bought that. And I remember the first thing I did is I went right to Dave. I was like, dude, you're not going to believe what domain name I just got. So yeah, I'm cheesing off of him a little bit, but it was, I thought that was so cool.
The real benefit is, somebody listening to this will remember that. So instead
Yeah,
of
it's
having to
easy
go
to
look
remember.
at the show
Yeah.
notes and whatever, they're like, who was that freaking guy? He was on a pod. Oh, he's the best podcast guy. Oh, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah,
Easy.
no, I love it. I love it, dude. Same thing, same reason why, even with Edipods too, like Edipods, yeah, that's easy to remember. But I also bought the best podcast editor.com. So if you go to that, it takes you right to Edipods, things like that. It's all about it's messaging, right? It's messaging.
Yep. That's
All
it,
right.
man.
I did lie though. I have another question for you, David. So to close
6
things
inches.
out, I want to ask you, do you have any final thoughts for our listeners?
And there's all kinds of great thoughts out there, but I would just say that the 2 things that will help you succeed the most in finances are to start now and be consistent. It's not sexy. It's not get quick fast. It's not NFTs and OnlyFans and whatever. There's a million ways to make money, but you just need to understand that there's always a reason not to invest. But the dollar you invest today is worth infinitely more than the dollar you invest in a year or 2 years or 10 years. So just get started somewhere and be consistent. Even if it's, I mean, that you've got it hiding right behind your work hard book, The Richest Man in Babylon. And that's all you need to know.
Oh man, that's one of my favorite books of all time.
It's a great one.
Seriously.
Yeah, it's
Seriously.
sick. I've got an old
The
school
basic
copy.
lessons that it teaches you, an amazing book. So actually, for those of you listening, if you have not read that book, it can be a little difficult to read because it is very like Old Testament written, the these and the thous. But I'm telling you, one of the best books on finances I ever read in my life. 100%.
Yeah, it's definitely up there.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to freaking read that again now that you brought that
Yeah, I
up. I'm
finally read it
going to get the
3
dust
times.
off of that thing. But yeah, great book. I love it, man. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for that final bit of advice. I think it really is super important for those listening to just understand that if somebody's bringing you something and they're telling you it's going to get you rich quick, freaking run away. It's a scam. None of this stuff, you're not going to get rich quick doing any of this. It takes time. You got to build it up. It might be quicker than other things, but it's not, you can overnight become an overnight success. A lot of work that needs to go into it. So awesome. Dave, thank you so much, man. I'm glad that we were finally able to make this happen. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today and share your awesome story with our guests. This was fantastic, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. No, thanks, brother. I appreciate it. I'm glad we finally made the timing work.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, I also want to thank all of my amazing listeners out there. I want to thank you so much for joining me and our special guest, Dave Pere, on the Average Joe Finances podcast. I want you to go and leave us a 5-star review and tell us what you liked about what Dave said today on this podcast. Aloha from Hawaii, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you for making it to the end of this episode. Greatly appreciate you being here with me today on the Average Joe Finances podcast. If you haven't done so yet, make this the episode that you go leave us a 5-star rating or subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Average Joe Finances podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Have an outstanding day.